$2. The words crashed through the dusty street. For one long moment, nobody moved. Then the whole crowd exploded with laughter. A man dropped his hat. An old woman covered her mouth. Even the horses tied near the wooden posts shook their heads as people laughed and pointed. Elias Boone stood beside his tired brown horse, one hand raised. "Did he say $2? Someone shouted. "He did," another man laughed. $2 for that tall girl." Clara stood on the wooden platform, her face burning. She was taller than most men around her. Her old gray dress hung loosely from her thin shoulders. Her hands were closed into tight fists. All morning, people had looked at her as if she were a broken chair or an old wagon nobody wanted. "Too tall," one woman had whispered. "Too quiet," said another. "Bad luck," an old rancher had muttered. Clara had heard every word. Now this dusty cowboy had stepped forward and offered $2. She turned toward him, her dark eyes full of anger. "Are you laughing at me too?" she asked. The laughter slowly died. Elias looked at her. He did not smile. "No." "Then why?" He reached into his coat and placed 2 silver coins on the table. Clink, clink. The sound was small, but everyone heard it. "I'm taking her with me," he said. The crowd stared again. A young cowboy laughed. You don't even have a proper house, Boone." More laughter followed. Elias did something strange. He ignored them. He walked to the platform and held out his hand to Clara. Clara looked at it but did not take it. "I don't belong to you," she said. Elias nodded. "I know." "Then why are you doing this?" For the first time his face changed. A shadow passed through his eyes. "Because nobody should stand alone while others decide they are worth nothing." The street became quiet. Clara looked past him. She saw the broken wooden buildings, the wagons, the dusty road leading out of Red Creek. She had nowhere to go. Still, she lifted her chin. "I can walk by myself." Elias stepped aside. "Then walk." Clara climbed down from the platform. People moved away as she passed. Elias picked up the 2 silver coins and placed them back in his pocket. Then he followed her toward the edge of town. Behind them, someone shouted, "Boone!" Elias stopped. At the far end of the street, a dark man stood beside a black horse. He was watching Clara. And he was not laughing. The sun was falling when Clara suddenly stopped walking. Elias, a few steps behind her, looked up. "What is it?" Clara did not answer. She stared back at the long, dusty road. Far away, a dark shape moved between the hills. A rider. Elias quickly took hold of his horse. "Get down," he said. Clara looked at him with anger. "I can stand if I want." "This is not the time." Something in his voice made her listen. They moved behind a large rock and waited. The rider came closer, then stopped. For a few long seconds, nobody spoke. Clara could hear her own heart beating. "Who is that?" she whispered. Elias watched the road. "I don't know." But Clara knew. Her face turned pale. "The man from town. The one who was watching you." She nodded. The rider stayed still for a moment. Then he turned his horse and disappeared behind the hill. Elias waited. "One rider can hide 10 more," he said. Clara looked at him. "You are afraid." "Yes." She was surprised by his answer. Most men she had known tried to look strong all the time. Elias did not. He only said, "Being afraid can keep a person alive." They traveled until darkness covered the land. At last, they reached Elias' small cabin. It was old and lonely. The walls were rough wood. A weak lamp hung beside the door. Clara looked around. "This is your home." For now." Elias gave a small smile. I move often. Inside there was one bed, a small table and a cold fireplace. Elias pointed to the bed. You sleep there. And you? Outside. Clara stared at him. Why? Because there is only one bed. That does not answer my question. Elias stopped at the door. Clara waited. Finally he said, I gave you my word, you are safe here. That night Clara could not sleep. The wind hit the walls. The old cabin made strange sounds. Then she heard something outside. A horse. She slowly sat up. Elias was already awake. His hand moved toward his rifle, but he did not raise it. Clara whispered, Is it him? Elias looked toward the dark window. I don't know. Then came 3 slow knocks on the door. Knock. 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 Elias stood up. Clara held her breath. And from outside, a cold voice said, Open the door, Boone. We need to talk about the girl. Clara held the old letter tightly as Elias guided his horse across Black Ridge. The wind was cold. Dark clouds covered the sky. We should turn back, Elias said. Clara shook her head. No, we are close. Elias looked behind them. For 2 days they had seen signs of Silas Crow and his men, fresh horse tracks, a dead campfire, broken branches beside the trail. Someone was following them. Clara reached inside her coat and touched the letter. Before her father died, he had given it to her. Find the old house, he had whispered. Those words had stayed in her mind for years. At sunset, Clara stopped. There, she said. Below the hill stood a small, broken house. Its roof was falling. Its windows were dark. Tall grass covered the ground around it. Elias climbed down from his horse. I don't like this. You never like anything, Clara said. He almost smiled. They entered carefully. The door opened with a long, painful sound. Inside, dust covered everything. An old table stood in one corner. A broken chair lay on the floor. Clara walked slowly to the fireplace. My father said there was a secret here. Elias looked around. What kind of secret? I don't know. Together they searched. Nothing. Then Clara noticed a loose stone near the fireplace. She dropped to her knees and pulled it free. Behind it was a small wooden box. Her hands shook. Inside was another letter. She opened it. Elias watched her face change as she read. What does it say? Clara looked up with tears in her eyes. There is no gold. Elias frowned. No money. She shook her head. My father left me this land. For a moment neither spoke. Then Elias said quietly, Then Silas has been chasing you for nothing. A sharp sound came from outside. A horse. Elias froze. Then another horse. And another. Clara's eyes widened. They found us. Elias quickly blew out the lamp. The room went dark. Outside, boots touched the ground. Clara moved closer to Elias. He whispered, Stay behind me. Then a cold voice came through the broken door. Clara, Silas called. Silence filled the old house. I know you're in there. Elias looked at Clara. She was afraid. But she slowly stood taller. For the first time, she did not want to run. She picked up the letter and faced the door. Then Silas kicked it open. Silas kicked the door open. Cold air rushed into the old house. Elias stepped in front of Clara. Stay back, he said. Silas entered slowly, smiling like he had already won. 2 men stood behind him. Give me the letter, Silas said. Clara held it against her chest. No. Silas laughed. That land belongs to me now. It belonged to my father, Clara said, and now it belongs to me. Silas's smile disappeared. Elias moved forward. You heard her. For 1 second, everything was silent. Then Silas attacked. The old house filled with shouting and crashing sounds. A chair broke. Dust fell from the ceiling. Elias fought to keep Silas away from Clara, but one of Silas's men struck him. Elias fell hard against the wall. Elias, Clara cried. Silas turned toward her. Give me the letter. Clara looked at Elias on the floor. Then she looked at the broken fireplace. Suddenly, she remembered something. Her father had once said, "The house remembers those who belong to it." Clara ran toward the fireplace. Silas followed her. Stop! She pulled the loose stone from the wall. Behind it was not gold. It was an old iron box filled with papers. Silas grabbed one paper, but his face changed. The documents showed the truth. The land had always belonged to Clara's family. Silas had no right to it. Outside, horses stopped near the house. Silas's men had seen the papers too. They looked at him. You lied to us, one said. Silas backed away. Elias slowly stood, holding his side. It's over, he said. Silas stared at Clara with hate, then turned and ran from the house. Weeks passed. The old house slowly changed. Elias repaired the roof. Clara cleaned the rooms. She planted flowers beside the porch. One evening, the sun turned the sky gold. Elias stood quietly outside. Clara came beside him. You can leave if you want, she said. Elias looked at the house, then at the garden, then at Clara. For years, he had ridden from place to place. But now, for the first time, he did not want to leave. No, he said softly, I think I'm home. Clara smiled. And the lonely cowboy finally found what $2 could never buy. A home, a family, and a place where he truly belonged.